IAEI News Live. My name is Thomas Dimitrovich, and today's topic is going to be on NFPA 70B, as in Bravo, and that is about electrical equipment maintenance. So we're going to be talking electrical equipment maintenance, big changes for NFPA 70B in process you need to know about, and it all starts now. All right. Okay. So 70B, electrical equipment maintenance. The title of so right now 70B is a practice or a guide. So the document right now is written a little bit differently than what we are typically accustomed to when we talk about the National Electrical Code. It's a recommended practice. So the 70B right now is a recommended practice. And what we're going to talk about, we're in mid-cycle right now. And I think you need to know sort of what's going on. Vince, thanks for joining us. Good day, sir. Good day to you. And so 70B, right now, the current edition on 70B, I believe, is 2019. So if you think about it, every 3 years, 70B is supposed to change. So we are past the due date for the next version of 70B, but that is because they put a little delay in place because we have a lot of work going on right now on maintenance. So this document is changing significantly to a standard. What does that mean? That means that it's going from a, you could and you should, and well, James Smith, you might want to, and Phil Hydia, you might say, hey, it might be a good idea, but it's moving to a standard, a you shall document. So Phil and Lou, good to see you, or good to see you online. So I want to talk, and I want to start a series on this because we're in mid-cycle. Public comments are open for NFPA 70B. And if there's anybody out there that doesn't like what they see in 70B, then I would say, Michael Hofkin, happy Tuesday. I would say if you don't like what you see and you haven't made a public input or a public comment, then just sit back and watch and enjoy, because you have to voice your opinion. You have to get engaged with the process, and it's easy. So now, I will say that to get to this document, I'm going to give you some shortcuts here. Let's do this. I'm going to try something here. There we go. All right, so I'm at a blank web browser. If you type in www.nfpa.org/70B Bravo and hit enter, you're going to come to the 70B website. And what you'll notice, you have a couple options. You've got the current and prior editions. So what do we know? Right now, it's a recommended practice for electrical equipment maintenance. You can buy your copy of 70B. You can sign into NFPA link, which I would highly recommend. Again, I'm a convert here. I was not a big fan of NFPA link, just the whole concept. And I've talked to Diana. I've talked to a lot of people at NFPA. They're like, Tom, you ought to try this. You ought to try this. Well, I got on board, and I'm telling you, I love it. Absolutely love it. I have it on my phone now. I have my little bookmarks going. I can make my little notes. And it's very inexpensive. So relatively inexpensive. I don't know how much you pay for coffee where you are at, but it's just that good. Anyway, you have next edition. You have the technical committee. So if you want to see people who are on the committee, you go to that tab right there, technical committee. You can go to ask a question. You can go to news, purchase products and training. And then the final one is related products. So now look what it says. The next edition is now open for comment. So you can go out to this site. You can view the first draft report, and you can, I hate when I can't find stuff. You can go out and look at the first draft report. You can make and submit a public comment online. And if you have NFPA link, you can sign into NFPA link and see what the current version says. Now, you may say, look, I never look at NFPA 70B. Have not in the past. Don't plan to in the future. That's perfectly fine. That's your prerogative. That's what you do. And if that's the voodoo that you do, then do it. But I will say, Diego Redondo, that this move from a what do they call it? A recommended practice to a standard is, I think, going to be significant. And I think you have to understand the trilogy between the National Electrical Code, NFPA 70E for safe work practices, and NFPA 70B maintenance. Now, I know there are some people that feel passionately that the National Electrical Code should not have any references to maintenance, and it's an installation requirement, it's not a maintenance document, on and on and on and on. I get you, I hear you, and I somewhat understand your philosophy there. 70B, moving to a standard, is I think helping us understand the importance and the significance of maintenance when it comes to safety. And we rely on NFPA 70E for safe work practices. Mickey Donahue, it's important to understand, in my opinion, that when I don't perform maintenance on my power distribution system, Willie Snyder will help us understand this as well, that my overcurrent devices may not respond when I think they're going to respond. When I have a piece of equipment that is in disrepair, some of the common activities, opening the door, and you should have the dead front there, etc. If the integrity of the enclosure is not where it needs to be, I could have an incident occur that reduces safety, puts lives at risk. So I think it's important for us to understand 70B and understand its position and fully comprehend how it relates to safe work practices and even the National Electrical Code. And I don't know if Phil Hydia or if it was James Smith or one of you guys out there, or a few of you. I know Ryan and a few others had some issues with maintenance requirements in the National Electrical Code. And I can tell you the latest version of the National Electrical Code, the 2023 version that we're working on right now, I'll just give you a taste and a little flavor of what's going on with regard to maintenance in the National Electrical Code. I'm just looking for the section because I think you might want to help. You might want to understand some of the things that are going on in the NEC. And I'm just looking right now. I'm in TerraView in the second revision, and I think I scrolled right past it. Let's go back to 110. 110 has scope, approval, examination. Cybersecurity is in there in 110. Terminals, temperature limitations, high leg, service of equipment, servicing and maintenance of equipment. So in 110.17, Ireland in the house. Thanks for joining us. I'm still waiting for Egypt. I don't know where my buddy Nihad's at. But in any case, we got Ireland in the house, and I think we've got some South American friends over in the house. So, servicing and maintenance of equipment. A new section in the National Electrical Code says, in the 2023 edition, second draft, Servicing of electrical preventive maintenance shall be performed by qualified persons trained in servicing and maintenance of equipment and shall comply with the following. The servicing and electrical preventative maintenance shall be performed in accordance with the original equipment manufacturer's instructions and information included in the listing information, applicable industry standards, or as approved by the authority having jurisdiction. The servicing and electrical preventative maintenance shall be performed using identified replacement parts that are verified under applicable product standards. The replacement parts shall comply with at least one of the following. A, be provided by the original equipment manufacturer. B, be designed by an engineer experienced in the design of replacement parts for the type of equipment being serviced or maintained. C, be approved by the authority having jurisdiction. And then there are two informational notes, and one of them references, what do you think? 70B. So, Mr. Willie, is 11017 the only 70B reference? No. So if you go to Article 700, and I believe, and Diego, I know you got your code book open. If you go to Article 700, there is a reference to maintaining the. There is a reference in 700, and don't prove me wrong. I'm in 682, 700. There is a maintenance section in 700, and it is, drum roll please, 700.3. Willie, Mr. Snyder, test and maintenance. It says about witness testing, okay? It says tested periodically. Systems shall be tested periodically on a schedule approved by the AHJ to ensure the systems are maintained in proper operating condition. Maintenance, 700.3 Charlie. Emergency system equipment shall be maintained in accordance with manufacturer instructions and industry standards. And there is a reference, an informational note that doesn't include a reference to 70B, but when you say maintenance in the National Electrical Code, you're talking 70B, in my opinion. And remember, everything on here is my opinion. It's not the opinion of anybody else. Any code-making panel, IAEI, is my opinion. So, and if you don't have an opinion, ask me and I'll give you one. But if you have an opinion, put it in the chat. That's what it's for. That's what that's for. Michael Hoffman says. Michael says, UL can provide field evaluations if you want to get that approval from the AHJ. Willie Snyder is asking. So ask your questions, chat it up. Communicate. That's how we get smarter, and that's how we improve as an industry. More companies than just UL perform field evaluations. You're right, Vince. And they better be on here saying they can help you. That's what the chat's for. Michaels knows where it's at. He's out talking. He's sharing his information. We need more of the nerdles out there, more of the nationally recognized testing laboratories. Get engaged, get involved. All right, so 700, and I'm looking at the 2023 version. And the 2023 version, 700.3, did a small change. They added an informational note that 700.3 Charlie is still there. And I don't see a reference to 70B in associated with 700.3. But so Willie, there are other areas. I wouldn't say a lot. There are other areas in the National Electrical Code that reference maintenance. I just gave you one other case in Article 700. Homework for all of you tonight is to go to the code and find the rest of those locations. Now, how about 70 Edward, 70E? Okay, so if you have your 70E book, and we're dealing with 2021. So, all right, Michael, you just make it happen, brother. Make it happen. Okay, so if we look at 70E, 70E talks about electrical safety program 110.5. You don't have to just open the book. You don't have to search long and hard to find references to maintenance. 110.5, the electrical safety program. I know this isn't about this session is on 70B, but I want to tell you something about this document. Many people think, when I'll ask an organization or an individual, do you have a safety plan? And they'll say, yeah, it's published. It's 70E. And that's not a good answer if you think about it. The way I look at 70E, and I could be wrong, and I could be right. I don't know. I'm telling you my perspective. When I look at 70E, I picture a cook in a kitchen. 70E includes the ingredients, the recipe for whatever meal that the cook is making is your safe work practice, your plan, your safety plan. Your safety plan may not include everything that's in 70E. You don't do 41. Hey, we got Egypt in the house. All right. Thank you, Nihad. You were leaving me. It's so cold here in Weirton, West by God, Virginia, that I needed some warmth. So from Egypt. So thank you. So 70E gives you what all of the aspects of electrical safe work practices. But for example, your organization may not do any medium voltage work. There is guidance in this book on medium voltage. You don't need it. So you would not include that in your safety plan because you don't do any of that work. You wouldn't want to clutter things up that you want your people and individuals focused. So in any case, 110.5, condition of maintenance, the electrical safety program shall include elements that consider condition of maintenance of electrical equipment and systems. It has a safety play. 70B is important for safety for our electrical workers. We can't lose sight of that. All right. So there are multiple references in this document that help us understand why 70B is an important piece of what I call the trilogy. 70, the National Electrical Code, 70E, safe work practices, and 70B, maintenance. All right. And I shortened up those titles on purpose because we got business to get down to, because I want to help you understand some of the key things on 70B. Now, I will tell you, if I look at the existing 70B, the 2019 version, we have how many chapters? I mean, it's a chapter-rich environment, 35 chapters. But here's the thing: the first few chapters, so you have administration, you have reference publications, you have definitions. Why? Chapter 4 is why an effective preventive maintenance plan pays dividends. You wouldn't see that in a standard. Why is an effective electrical preventative maintenance program? What is an electrical preventative maintenance program? Planning and developing personnel safety, fundamentals of equipment maintenance, system studies. Now you're getting into, so here, starting on chapter 9 in the existing book, Phil, Mr. Hydia, starting on chapter 9, we start getting into topics that might be around either a service or a product. For example, system studies. We're talking short circuit coordination, load flow, all of that jazz. Power system studies, power quality, testing and test methods. That's sort of a generic thing, right? And then you have the chapter 12 is the maintenance of electrical equipment subjected to long intervals between shutdowns. That's a generic. But now you get into chapter 13, ground fault protection. 15, substations and switchgear. 16, motor control equipment. 17, molded case circuit breakers, insulated case circuit breakers. 18, fuses. 19, power cables. So one of the things I like and I hate about 70B is that they focus specific chapters on specific solutions. And in the beginning of the book, we have the intervals and whatnot. But towards the end of the book and after, say, chapter, I don't know, after chapter 12, you start getting into products like fuses and breakers and cables and busway and all that good stuff. The next version is going to follow the same principle. And the reason I say it's good, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Once you start, you sort of have to start to use it to understand the relationships. And I'll give you a for instance. So if I look at 70B, and any of you can do this, right? So anybody can go to 70B and click on the first draft report or submit a public comment. So I'm just going to click on first draft report. You have administration, you have reference publications, you have definitions, personnel safety, and we can argue, should Chapter 4 even exist? Okay, this is a good question for everybody out there. Robert from Omaha, take a look at this. Personnel safety. How do you should we have a chapter on personnel safety, or is that a 70E responsibility? I think that's a valid question, and something that you may want to bring up at some point in a public comment. Maybe Chapter 4 is the best thing since apple pie. Maybe it's not. Maybe you go into Chapter 4 and say, I want to delete it. Or maybe you go into Chapter 4 and say, I want to add to it to make it more complete. And maybe Chapter 4 should only address the unique characteristics of when maintenance is performed, which may be a detail that's not covered in 70E. I don't know. I don't know the answer to these questions. I need you all to take a look at it. If you are an inspector, you need to look at it. If you are an industrial, think about this. If you are a heavy industrial, a commercial building, you need to look at these requirements for maintenance. Do they make sense to you? So we have, what you'll see is you have system studies, just like we had before. You have general requirements. You have system studies, fundamental tests, field testing and test methods, and then hazardous locations, maintenance intervals, and then you get into the products, right? So you got Chapter 11 is power and distribution transformers, 12 is substations and switchgear, 13 is panel boards and switchboards, 14 is busways, circuit breakers, low, medium voltage, fuses is next. So what you're seeing is after Chapter 10, Chapter 10 sets you up with maintenance intervals. Now, what do we mean by maintenance intervals? Chapter 10 is going to tell us that all equipment, you need to be performing infrared thermography annually in the best of conditions. So what you'll see in Chapter 10, we have 3 basic conditions of equipment. Condition 1 is when the equipment appears to look like new, when the enclosure is clean and dry, when the equipment is suitable for the environmental conditions, the equipment's not subject to harsh chemicals, contaminants, or extreme operating conditions. There's no unaddressed notifications from the continuous monitoring system. There's no identified issues with the equipment. So equipment that is pristine, beautiful, looks like it went in yesterday. You're going to be doing thermography annually. Looking for what? What does thermography do? You're looking for hot spots. You're looking for the terminations. You want to know, are those terminations going bad? And I'll tell you, there is a lot of debate on the thermography side, and we're going to do a special session here on IAEI News Live and try to address thermography. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. The second condition of the equipment, condition 2, is tells us basically the enclosure appearance is deteriorated due to age, use, or abuse, evidence of arcing or overheating, loose or bound equipment parts, visible damage, unused openings, corrosion or deterioration, visible degradation of the equipment. Could be dust, debris, rust, etc. You're in condition 2. And what does condition 2 bring with it? So we have 3 conditions. Condition 1 is it's spectacular. We have a maintenance routine intervals. If it's a circuit breaker, if it's a panel board, if it's a switchboard, if it's a wiring device, rotating equipment, they'll tell you for each of those that, like, for example, let's take a look at circuit breakers, molded case and insulated case circuit breakers. If it's in condition 1, you're going to do mechanical operation cycling every 5 years, every 60 months. Condition 2, which we said, there's some visible issues, your age, degradation, could be, rust on the equipment, etc. 36 months. So you're going to do mechanical operation of that equipment, of that circuit breaker, more often, the worse the condition looks. Because now what you're going to do, if something doesn't look good, you're going to give it a little bit more love more often because you need to take care of it and recognize that imminent failure is probably coming down the pike if you don't take care of that solution. Visual inspections, maintenance, and testing. So what is condition 3? Condition 3 would be the worst condition. You say there's evidence of active arcing or overheating. There is evidence of corrosion, deterioration. You have notifications from a continuous monitoring system that there are problems, and you have urgent actions that have been identified from your predictive techniques of review. So those are the 3 conditions. So Chapter 10, what it does is it tells us for the product that you're looking at, panel boards, switchboards, power breakers, insulated case circuit breakers, fuses, high voltage substation insulators, switchgear assemblies, surge arresters, capacitors, batteries and chargers, protective relays. We can go on and on and on, all the different products. They tell you the different types of test, the scope of your work, whether you are doing thermography or you're doing mechanical operation, you're doing a visual inspection, you're maintaining and testing it. And a test could be a physical test, it could be a electrical test, right? For a breaker, you might say, hey, you need to make sure that it opens on an overcurrent. For panel boards, you might, the details of each of the chapters on those specific products speaks to the details associated with what we're talking about in frequency of maintenance. See, what you'll see is a relationship. And I'm telling you, it can be a little bit daunting at first when you're looking at a document. You're looking at a document that has 38 chapters and annex material. So you're looking at a document that has a lot of chapters associated with it. And when you say, for example, open up chapter 15, which is on circuit breakers, 16 is on fuses. So you grab, chapter 15, I just want to make sure my numbers here. Chapter 15, circuit breakers, low and medium voltage. You're going to look into that chapter and it tells you what it applies to. It always tells you that the manufacturer's instructions take precedence. They speak to frequency of maintenance, and they reference chapter 10 that we were just talking about. And then they tell you visual inspections. Here's your task. And then they tell you the test types. So the types are going to be one for an online standard test. So that what that means is it's energized and it's a standard test that you will do. 1A is an online, meaning it's energized, but it's an enhanced test. And what do we mean by enhanced test? That is something that you can elect to do. And the reason you elect to do it could be because you decided that, you know, I did this test and I don't like the results. I'm going to do this enhanced test based on my visual inspections. There's nothing in here that tells you when you have to do an enhanced test. It just says this is an enhanced test. It leaves it to the user of the document and the person who's performing the test or creating a test plan. So, visual inspections for a circuit breaker. You're going to verify the ratings for proper system application, and this can be done as an online standard test or an offline standard test. Now, we separated the tasks based on, and what I'll do is here, let's do this. I'll just show you what I'm looking at here. So I have verify for proper system application, verify the ratings. We have inspect insulated materials and frame for evidence of physical damage. And you'll see for a molded case circuit breaker, an insulated case circuit breaker, or a low voltage power circuit breaker, all of those have to be done in a condition 2, which is an offline standard test. So 1 is online, meaning energized. 2 is offline. Anything with an A is an enhanced test. Why we wouldn't put an E, I don't know. 1E, 1 enhanced. Enhanced starts with an E, not an A. Anyway, just trying to help. Okay, we're from NFPA 70B and we're here to help. So the 4th item is to inspect visible current carrying parts and control devices, if applicable, for signs of overheating and deterioration. That is an offline standard test. Inspecting arc chutes for cracks or excessive erosion, if applicable, that you can do on an insulated case in a low voltage power breaker, but you cannot do that on a molded case circuit breaker. So it's not applicable to a molded case circuit breaker. Not daunting, but amazing. You know what? I have not been looking at the comments. Hey, Robert from Omaha, Nihad, I know how cold this is from home in Saskatoon. Yep. Michael Hoffman says, as a service electrician, it is often very difficult to ascertain if electrical equipment has been properly maintained. Michael, you are absolutely right. We look at stickers on equipment, but here is my thoughts on this one, and I think I'll have to double check this, but in the general requirements, there is a section 5.2, electrical maintenance program. The equipment owner shall implement and document an overall electrical maintenance program that directs activity appropriate to the safety and operational risks. So implement and document the plan. So that's a part of 5.2, but let's take a look at elements that consider current condition principles. The electrical maintenance program shall identify the principles upon which it is based and the goals to be achieved. That's the principles, and this is where we get into that it has to have an electrical safety program that addresses the condition of maintenance. That it has to identify the personnel that are going to perform that maintenance. They have to be qualified. It talks about a survey and analysis of electrical equipment and systems to determine maintenance requirements. It talks about developing and documenting the maintenance procedures. You have to have a plan. You have to have the maintenance equipment and personnel documentation and records retention policy. So you have to document your maintenance program. I would say when you get on site, if you are going to perform work, let's say you're working with an organization, you're the contractor, and you're going to perform maintenance for a facility, or you're going to have a project, you should ask to see these records. Because it's a good thing to have right now, but it's going to be a standard. But regardless, to Michael Hofkin's point, when you walk up to a piece of equipment, I can look at a piece of equipment and say, it looks great. You can look at a piece of equipment and say, I see rust here and here. It don't look good at all. But neither of us know exactly what's going on inside that piece of equipment until you take the dead front off. You could take the dead front off and find out that there's been mice in there and it's filled with chestnuts, right? Because nobody's taken the dead front off to do thermography or anything else in the life of that installation. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what's inside until you open it up. Right? So I can look at the outside of an enclosure all day and say it looks great. But if I don't see the records that say thermography was done, and you can't do thermography with the doors closed. I know people out there that do it. I got my Keith Laughlin thinking pen, and I'm telling you, even Keith might say that to you. You've got to open the doors. You've got to expose the conductors. You got to expose your terminations, because you need to be able to see the heat in that area, not the heat of the entire front of the enclosure. So if none of that work has ever been done, then you really don't know what's going on from a maintenance perspective in any of your equipment. And that impacts 70E. So from an electrical worker's perspective, they show up to a job site. Yeah, they can have a tag on the outside, but I would say there should be more details on what has been done and where in that facility. You should look at their practices. You may not agree with their thermography process. You may not agree with how they test their circuit breakers. You may find out that, yeah, they have a circuit breaker test plan, and their circuit breaker test plan is look at the outside and make sure that it looks clean. And that's all they do, right? Because until now, we didn't have a document that said, this is what you shall do as a minimum. So Robert from Omaha says, the reason for 70B, the power of the energy when equipment was installed, has not changed in the time equipment has been in use. Equipment has worn down over time. The power has not. That is true, Robert. And I could make an argument that the energy in that facility may have gone up. I added more motors. Even if I reduced the motor contribution, I could have longer clearing times. I could say, I've changed the environment. So it's important for us to understand maintenance is important. 70B is going through this transition to make it a standard because maintenance is important. But what we need are your eyes on this document. We are after the first draft. You can go up to NFPA's website. You can go to 70B. If you weren't here in the beginning of this program, take a look at the beginning, because I showed you how to get to the 70B document. You can go in and read it. Make sure you understand it. Where you don't understand it, flag it, and help us make a better document. We've got to have eyes on this, just like we have on this book. It gets a lot of love. This book gets a lot of love. 70B, we have to share the love. So, all right, so let's go back to I'm going to look at Circuit Breakers, Chapter 15, just because I'm sitting here and that's where I'm at. So 70B, visual inspection of circuit breakers. They have a table. We have cleaning, electrical equipment, services, and enclosures, insulating materials shall be kept clean and contaminant-free state. They tell you that if contamination is found, such as the presence of dust or etc., moisture, and they tell you to clean it in accordance with Section 5.8. And 5.8, Chapter 5 are general requirements. So you'll see how each of the chapters related to a product, they tell you the important pieces associated with this product, whether it be a circuit breaker, fuse, switchboard, switchgear, busway, whatever it is, each chapter. has a product it focuses on. It tells you what's important for that product. But you have to understand Chapter 5, general requirements. You have to understand Chapter 7, fundamental tests. Chapter 7 talks about the bolted bus connections. How do you test those? Infrared thermography, thermal sensors, contact resistance, millivolt drop tests. They tell you how to verify torque. And if you don't know how to verify torque, you need to go out and take a look at 70B. I'm telling you, it's in the previous edition, the 2019, and it is also in the next edition. We're not getting rid of that. We can tell you how to verify torque. You just don't re-torque things, or you'll torque it off. Newly installed threaded hardware torque values, conductor terminations and connectors, infrared thermography, torque verification, newly installed threaded hardware. So it talks about, so what is it? 7.3 is conductor terminations. 7.2 is bolted bus connections. So you got bolted bus connections and you've got thermography, torque, and everything associated with that. You've got conductor terminations. You've got torque, thermography, and everything associated with those terminations. This is in Chapter 7, which is titled Fundamental Tests. 7.5 is a section dedicated to infrared thermography. And you may, if you are an expert at infrared thermography, you think you're an expert at infrared thermography, you should be in 7.5. Is that what needs to be there? You can look at the annex material. Is that what needs to be there? And I'll tell you, there's no annex material on 7.5. So if you think you need some descriptive information on infrared thermography, get your Keith Laughlin thinking pen out and start writing this stuff down and get out there to NFPA's website and start making comments. We need your input. That's Chapter 7. So you see, the fundamental test relates in each chapter associated with products will point back, because if they say you need to do thermography, they're going to say, how do you do it? Go to 7. Go to Chapter 7, fundamental tests. So let's go back to 15. So 15, we talked about cleaning, and that says section 5.8. So let's take a look at 5.8. What does 5.8 say? 5.8 says equipment cleaning. 5.8 says electrical equipment cleaning shall be part of the EMP. 5.8.1 says cleaning of the electrical equipment shall be performed in accordance with manufacturer's instructions. 5.82 says, in the absence of manufacturer's instructions, cleaning shall be performed in accordance with applicable industry best practices for the device being cleaned. And then cleaning personnel. No, you don't have to clean the personnel. It's the personnel who are doing the cleaning. Electrical equipment cleaning shall be performed by personnel who are familiar with the cleaning materials required and methodologies necessary for effective removal of contaminants, debris, and other materials that compromise the electrical equipment. You can do more harm trying to clean something than good if you don't know what you're doing. All right? I know people who carry out periodic inspections from their vans. Wow, from their vans. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm outside your facility. The house looks good. The front door needs some help, but I'm sure that the electrical equipment inside probably are reflective of the outside condition. Check. I don't know about that one, man. Boy, that's scary. Randy, it will be beneficial to have a standard as a benchmark. Yes, Randy, I agree with you. And that's I think a big part of the challenge is some manufacturers have good guidance. Some do not. Some equipment in general has really good guidance. Others do not. This will motivate manufacturers and other organizations to start creating the materials that we need. Because you know what happens? Why do we have a definition of a laundry area in the National Electrical Code? Why did that exist? Because somebody elected to put GFCI requirements in that room. The moment you have a requirement, all of a sudden we don't know what a laundry area is. All of a sudden, we don't know what a kitchen. That's not a kitchen. That's not a bathroom. No, that's not a laundry area. Wait, you got a dishwasher. You got a washing machine and a dryer. Well, how's it not? It's a closet. It just so happens to have a washing machine and a dryer in it. So, and what do you mean by area? The moment you have a requirement, the radar goes off, the hair stands up on the back of people's neck, and they want to get engaged. So that's what I think this is going to do. And it's going to stimulate what we're having today here on IAEI News Live. And remember, I'm going to take this moment right now. Subscribe. I need you all to do this here on the YouTube site for the IAEI's YouTube site. We have a lot. I'm just one little program on Tuesdays. Randy, I'm looking at Randy Pierce. But Rudy Garza does he did a great session not too long ago to help us all understand the changes that IAEI, the organization, is going through. What's moving forward? What's a crawl space? Exactly, Neon. So you want to subscribe. I'm telling you, you need to subscribe this. Hey, we got Pittsburgh in the house. Huh? Look at this. I took that photo and I'm here in West by God, Virginia. So Joseph, you got to let me know. You got to let me know where you're at, brother. Fellow Pittsburghers got to stick together. Yin's guys all got to join us on the south side. So I would say that that you've got to join the IAEI's YouTube site. We're doing a lot of stuff there. We need to get the followers up, and we've grown considerably. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna complain. You guys and gals have done a great job. You hitting that subscribe button, click the bell because you'll know when we go live. Rudy's out there talking. We're doing those nice, short little educational pieces. The IAEI International Office is doing everything we can to help bring technical knowledge to the industry. And it's worth your subscription. It's worth it's worth your membership in IAEI. So Michael Hofkin, I did not take this with a drone because legally I'm not allowed to have images from that drone on my channel. I'm not allowed to have that until I get my Drone Master J license, which I haven't sat for yet. Chris Langford, thank you for joining. Okay, so let's get back to Chapter 15, Circuit Breakers and Low and Medium Voltage. We said cleaning, and it refers us back to Chapter 5. So you will see the relationship to Chapter 5. You see the relationship back to Chapter 10. The next portion is, well, cleaning. Lubrication is a part of cleaning. So lubrication is in here. So 15.3 is, no, 15.3 is titled Periodic Maintenance Procedures. Okay, so 15.3 is your periodic maintenance. .1 is visual inspections. .2 is cleaning. .3 is lubrication. And they tell you what to lubricate. And they tell you that what type of lubricant you need to use. Conductive lubricant on exposed contacts. And there are some that you need a non-conductive lubricant. Don't mix those up. That would be ungood, okay? I'm just saying that using a conductive lubricant where you should not use a conductive lubricant, I don't know, something just doesn't even sound right. Knowing electricity the way I do. And so what does it tell us? It says moving and sliding parts. There's no reference to any other chapters in the lubrication section. And you'll see this in every section. Every type of product will have similar, if not the same, identical section numbers. We want to drive consistency through each chapter. .4 is mechanical servicing. Circuit breakers shall be mechanically serviced in accordance with 15.3.4, which is a table. They tell you to, and again, we maintain the test types 1, 2, 1A and 2A, and I already said what they are. So check the accessible electrical hardware connections for proper torque. Replace any barriers. And for checking electrical hardware connections, they tell you to reference Chapter 7, or actually, that should be, yeah, Chapter 7. So here's the other thing. We're after first draft. We made an immense number of changes. Watch the details. Reference notes and things like that. I need your help to police that up. This, I mean, if you've never done public inputs and you don't know a doggone thing about safe, maintenance, take a look at this document just to make sure that the section references are right, because we changed everything. Do you think we missed something? I think we might have. So you gotta, I need your help. I need your engagement. We need your engagement. MCCB, so check all accessible hardware, operate the circuit breaker in a test function 3 times. Now, here's the next question. It says, operate the circuit breaker in a test function 3 times, and you have to do this as an offline standard test. So you say, well, how often, Tom, do I have to do that? Well, you've got to go to Chapter 10. And Chapter 10 talks about test frequency for a molded case circuit breaker. Equipment condition, we're going to say it's in good condition. Mechanical operation and cycling, which we were just talking about, every 5 years. So if you want to know what does that entail, you go to Chapter 15. You go to mechanical tests, mechanical servicing, and it says, what do I have to do every 5 years, every 60 months? Check all the accessible hardware. I have to replace any barriers and parts that have been removed for maintenance. I have to operate the circuit breaker in a test fashion 3 times. I verify operation and alignment of mechanical safety interlocks where applicable. I verify the proper operation of the shutter assemblies on the draw-out circuit breakers. I measure and record a trip bar force, which is not required on a molded case circuit breaker because can't do that, but it is required as an optional test, as an enhanced test. It's required it's an enhanced test for the insulated case and low voltage power circuit breakers that you may elect to do because maybe you didn't like the results of some of these other mechanical tests. Maybe you didn't like the way it looked. Maybe your boss told you to do it and you're just going to do it. Or maybe you're so mad and you just need a few more hours of time and you're going to do that test. I don't know what your decision and what your logic is. It is an enhanced test. And then it goes into electrical testing. And it goes to perform infrared thermography. Tells you, and again, there's a condition 1, 2, 2A, etc. They tell you about measuring the contact resistance, etc. So when you go to each of these chapters, you will understand the details on what you have to do. Chapter 10 tells you how often you have to do it. Chapter 5, which are your general requirements, sort of give you the what do you mean by condition 1, 2, and 3. And Chapter 7 tells you, well, if you're going to do thermography, this is how you do it. If you're going to check your torque, this is how you do it. See how it relates? And it can be, I tell you what, it can be a little challenging to navigate your way through it. Phil, who will enforce? Who will do enforcement on the new 70B? How's it going to work? Maybe that's a conversation for another day. Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, that is a very good question. And I've got 5 minutes, technically, left. So let's talk a little bit about enforcement. The only group that I know that enforces 70B yet today, they enforce 70B even though it is a recommended practice and not a standard, are your labs, your government facilities like Los Alamos Lab and those types of facilities. Those organizations will enforce them. Maintenance. The other entity you have to think about, the other entity that I believe you have to think about is OSHA. Now, you say OSHA doesn't even enforce 70E. You might be right. Who enforces 70E? We do. Who enforces 70E? The company, the owner of the organization does. Our contractors, the owners of our contractors. We all enforce 70E. 70B is going to take the similar route. I don't personally, in my opinion, I don't see a state adopting it. I don't see, I can see OSHA maybe referencing it. Someone says, hey, you injured an electrical worker, and based on 70E, this is what you should have been doing, and based on 70B, this whole facility has not been maintained. Do I think OSHA might be able to come to town and cite it? I don't know. Maybe. Time will tell on that one. Dan, I'm following along in TerraView, and it appears that the only thing that wasn't changed is the title. You're right, brother. That's what I'm saying. This is my point, Dan. We all have to pay attention to 70B and get in there and start looking at stuff. And we need your input. It is a significant change. We couldn't just take the entire document and replace the you coulds with you shall, or you might be able to's with you shall, because this is a bare minimum requirement. It has significantly been adjusted. So, including the annex material. So, Dan, I thank you for going out and looking at it, because your revelation is 100% accurate. It is a significant change. We all need to be engaged with it. You will know, and you as an inspector, as a contractor, as a designer, as a in heavy industrial, you all will understand the implications and the practicality of some of this. I mean, is it practical that every 5 years you're going to cycle your breakers? Maybe it is. Is it practical that annually you do a thermography of everything in your facility? Maybe it is. Is it practical? Is it practical? There are a lot of different changes in here that you need to be looking at. And Dan, you are 100% correct. It has changed significantly. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your engagement. Phil, Haidia, thank you for joining. Nihad El Sharif. Yes, we will get together. Electrical Safety Workshop. We need to talk about that this afternoon. And Dan, thank you for pointing that out. And thank you for going out and looking in TerraView. Every one of us can see the new 70B. And I again ask all of you, subscribe to the IAEI's YouTube site. I'm looking for your membership in IAEI because we need your engagement. We're going to be doing a lot more as we grow our presence online, as we grow our online educational items. There are things that I know I want to bring as part of IAEI to the table for members only. So get out there and join and become an IAEI member. We're looking for you in your participation, in your help to grow this organization and grow electrical safety in our industry. IAEI is a group that's not just dedicated to inspectors. It's not just dedicated to electrical professionals. Think about it. You're a mechanical engineer. You are a mechanic. You do HVAC installations. You need to understand electrical safety because you're going to be pulling ductwork. You're going to probably have a unit that needs to be powered up. You need to understand electrical safety, electrical installations, electrical applications, and that's what the IAEI is all about. We created a program. Randy says we created a program to require all casinos to test all components of the life safety systems every 5 years. We sure could have used a standard for testing the electrical portions. Yes, Randy, that life safety is a critical piece, and it's in Article 700. I know a lot of people say it doesn't belong there in the National Electrical Code, but that's the only hook we have to get some sort of requirements because 70B and 70E not enforced. So It's important. And thank you, Paul. I appreciate your feedback. And Randy, yes, I mean, I agree with you 100%. We need to be looking at all of our facilities. What is our maintenance plan? What is our safe work practices plan? What are we going to require for our facility, for our organization? Maintenance has to be a part of that. Very important part of that. So hopefully you guys and gals got something out of our session today. I'm going to be reaching out to members of 70B, other members of 70B, and try to do some engaging dialogue around 70B as we continue through the process, because we can only make it better by sharing our ideas. And if you don't feel comfortable with making a public comment to 70B, reach out to me. I'm on the committee. I can help you understand the process. I can help you. I can look at your ideas and see where they may or may not fit. And there are other committee members and names you may recognize. Go out there to NFPA's website, look at the committee members, take a look at the names, and you know where you're going to see them? I'll tell you where you're going to see them. You're going to see those individuals, the same place you see individuals who sit on National Electrical Code. You're going to see them at IAEI meetings held across the country. You're going to see them online at live and recorded sessions of IAEI educational materials. You're going to have the opportunity to network with all of those individuals, get familiar with their names, understand who they are, where they're at, because my guess is you're going to see them at an IAEI event. All right, Dan, thank you, sir. We will definitely grill them, Michael. But I gotta play nice sometimes. I'm not a good politician. I'm a good technical guy. I'm good at just putting it all out there, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, as you well know. But we will do what we can to make sure that we always have good, professional conversations, as always. Go to those. Look at that. 5 chapters in Pennsylvania alone. Get to those chapters. Know people. Network. That's where it happens. I'm telling you, we've got to get back into those meetings. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thanks for all you do for electrical safety. I've got to get on another program, an internal meeting. So I got to go. Thanks for all you do for electrical safety and the electrical industry. Take care, stay safe, and please stay healthy. Until next Tuesday, IAEI News Live, signing off for now. Thanks, everybody.